Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is your good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is your Vice President for New Order National Human Rights Organization, Leonard Jones. I'm so happy to be here once again on DKM Radio. We took a little break, but now we're glad to be back on this platform. Big shout out to my man Rashim Ashime for allowing us this platform each and every third Thursday of the month between 11 a.m. and 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Greetings from our president, Mr. Gerald Rose, who's always out here doing the work for the people, supporting the people, and whatever it is that they may need. And we're so proud to be a part of this organization and being able to share this platform with individuals. We invite you all to call in if you want to get in on the conversation. You can call in at 508-924-3521. I got an awesome guest coming to you all here shortly, Mr. Dwight Futch. Whom I know, like on Facebook, you can follow him at Peace Justice, and we met doing something very righteous. And I would love to, we'd love to have him on today, and we'll get to that shortly. But let's go ahead and take care of some of the business. A New Order National Human Rights Organization, once again, it was President Mr. Gerald Rose, who fights tirelessly with this organization to support members of our community around the United States, wherever it may be, wherever injustice is. You can always reach out to New Order at 1-800-346-5138. We have a very dedicated staff. Shout out to our chief of staff, Mr. John Drummond, for all that he does with the organization. He heads the group that takes your calls and vets your calls to find out if we can help you and how we can help you. And it's been a blessing to be associated with this brother, as well as all of the hardworking members of New Order, making New Order what it is. Our motto is it's not I, but we. And it takes so many people to make this thing happen, where it happens, and to do those things that we need to do for our communities. We have things going on and partners in the community that work tirelessly to talk to you about stopping the violence, criminal justice, feeding the homeless, you name it. New Order is trying to have an impact. Shout out to Mika Meek and June Benson as well in our organization, who will be participating in Violence Ain't No Joke Part 2, which will be this evening, I believe, between 5 and 7 p.m. It's a virtual Zoom call. If you all are interested in that call, you can go to Zoom, and the meeting ID will be 862-1029-3860. Once again, that meeting ID for the free Zoom meeting is 862-1029-3860. And it's being sponsored by Operation Correct Start of America Incorporated, Saving Our Sons, as well as his special guest, Keenan Thompson, will be on, as well as my man from Outcast, Big Boy, will be on, as well as special guest Killer Mike. And that's going to be 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. today. And that's Violence Ain't No Joke Part 2. We have an ongoing issue with violence, man. Our prayers go out to the families who lost their loved ones to more senseless, racist violence. And I know the hearts of the community are heavy right now. And I speak to you from a place of learning how to channel your anger, your frustration, and your disappointment into something righteous that fights this evil, wicked, white, racist enemy. Get organized. Find a strategy that has an impact on crime in your communities. Make sure that you are a part of the progress and not a part of folks that are regressing. Everybody got a right to bear arms. If you got them, get them. That's your choice. But more guns ain't the solution. We must sit down and we must come up with a strategy to take this fight to a new level. That's why we're always shouting to you. Make sure you register to vote. We got important elections coming up. Man, shout out to those individuals that I know personally that are running for public office, and they're about being the change that they've always talked to me about. Man, shout out to D. Dawkins Hagler, who's running for Secretary of State here in Georgia. Because I know her personally and I know her work, I can completely understand why this sister has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize and on that list, because of what she talks about is what she actually is about. And these are the type of people that we need in public office. Shout out to all those people who have listened to activists, who have been in the communities and who fight for such righteous things as fighting homelessness, fighting domestic violence. And you actually get in those seats of power to make the decisions on how we allocate our resources and things necessary to make this world a better place that we live in. The world will not change as long as you allow evil, wicked people to be in charge. The way you're doing that is you're not voting. If your communities are 70% African American, your leadership should be 70% African American. You should make sure that the people that you do elect in office, hold them accountable or let them know that they will not be their next term. Fight for what you want, and then you have to continue to fight to maintain it. We cannot have district attorneys who have conflicts with pursuing justice. We cannot have district attorneys who feel it's necessary to go after gangs and then not go after corrupt police. We must all be one united against crime. We must one united against corruption. We must be united against domestic violence. We must be united against all those things that destroy our communities. This is no one thing. It's we. We have to do something. We have to get involved. We can't sit around hoping somebody else do something for us. We can't hope that they watch them. We have to watch them. We have to be in the positions to enact laws that protect us, that protect our children, that make sure that we're getting justice when we walk into these courtrooms. Each and every day, there is a story that is played out in the majority of courtrooms across America. And it's called injustice and corruption, because you let those individuals responsible sit as judges, as attorney generals, district attorneys, police chiefs, and police officers, school board members, county clerks. You allow these evil and hateful people to occupy these positions, and then your tax dollars pay them. You're paying the assassins that are destroying your lives. You're paying the people that don't give you justice when you walk in these courtrooms. That's what your tax dollars are going for. So why shouldn't you be involved? Make sure you're registered to vote. Make sure you are listening to these individuals' campaigns. Find out what they're about and who they're connected to, so you know if you're making the best decision or not. And if you don't know, go to various websites and look at the report cards of the various candidates. If there is none in your area, guess what? You can start it. You can start it on Facebook by simply just saying, hey, I went and asked this person running for office this question, and this is what they said. You can start the protest outside of the courthouses, outside of the jails, wherever you are at and wherever you see injustice. This is what New Order is about. We need a new way of doing things, a new way of responding to terrorism that is going on right under our noses. That enemy is not hiding from you. You do not need to make up stories. You do not need to embellish facts. The facts of the matter is, wicked white racists are still about what they have always been about: disenfranchising and destroying Black people. And the sad part about it is, not only are you allowing the powers that be to be on the side of injustice and corruption, you're doing some of the same things in your own community. Think about it. A lot of us don't have guns waiting for a mass shooter. We have guns just because of what's going on in our communities. It's one thing to talk about doing right, but it's another thing to do it. If it looked like a duck and walk like a quack like a duck, it's probably a duck. So all those that are supporting this killer, that are supporting the things that wicked white racist people do, they've told you and showed you who they are by who they support. They show you who they are by the laws they support and who they vote for. So do be mindful of those things when it comes to your opportunity to vote to select your leadership. Get involved. Shout out to those individuals that I'm always promoting this group that does advocacy for what's going on in the prisons here in Georgia. You people need to be concerned about that. You need to be concerned on whether or not someone is housing inmates and not feeding them properly, not treating them properly, and in some cases, just downright murdering them. Yes, you need to be concerned. Don't be so easy to jump on the propaganda train and go along with what you heard on the news. Remember, the news was created to sell commercials. And so it depends on them on what they see important. And a lot of times, a lot of the issues that happen in the African community are not important unless they're benefiting someone else's agenda. But I'm going to bring somebody on here, Mr. Dwight Futch, who has been on, when I say all sides of this thing as it relates to being an American. The good, the bad, the ugly side, the incarcerated side, the mistreated side, the lied on side, even an employee once of the same correctional system. So it's going to be good to have him come on. I don't know if you all can see him or not, but Mr. Peace Justice, take your mute off. I think I see you muted. So we can hear you. Can you hear me? Peace.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. I can hear you now. And I'm on the, like I said, his name is Mr. Dwight Futch, and he goes by the name of Peace Justice. We met at the protest in Flint, Michigan, as it relates to the poisoning of that system. That God continue to bless and provide for those individuals affected by poor government. But brother, it's glad to have you on. Thank you for calling in. And you know, I've been following your story and what you have been going through for quite some time now. And I very much admire and respect how you turned an awful situation into power. And not just that, gathering the credentials to help individual to work with that community as an advocate for individuals that were formerly incarcerated as well who are incarcerated now. I've seen you provide meals and things for people online and break bread with them, and to take all the wickedness and trouble in your life and make it work for good, brother. So good afternoon and thank you for being on the show. I think we got my man stuck right now. Okay, there you go. And if you have a hard time with the video, because it can be a hard time when you're moving, just call back in if you should drop off. Okay.
All right. Can you hear me, Will?
Yes, sir. I hear you. Now introduce yourself to the people.
Well, my name is Dwight Futch, and you can follow me on Facebook under Peace Justice, PEACE space Justice, AUSTICE. That's who I
am. And what I want you to tell them about, because one, I met you at a protest without knowing your personal story and things of what you was going through, and I learned of your personal story by watching it online on Facebook, and how you found yourself after working in the law enforcement, as well as being a part of other things to reach out with juveniles and things of that nature caught into the system, to find yourself caught up in the system, actually being in jail and actually having to fight on your own and defend yourself to become the free man that you are today. Explain to us what was the main motivating factor that let you know that it was up to you to take care of your situation.
Well, first of all, once again, I want to thank you, my brother, for allowing me the space and opportunity to share my strengths and experiences in my homes. And I applaud you for what you're doing and how you are empowering, definitely getting the word out concerning some of the things that we must do in order to move the needle forward. Uh, I came to Georgia in 2006, and the vision and the goal that I had, or what God had given me, was to open up transitional programs, reentry programs, second chance programs, 12-step programs, and the goal was to do whatever we needed to do to reduce the levels of incarceration in Georgia. Because based on my experiences prior to coming here, I knew Georgia had a mass incarceration issue. But prior to me coming to Georgia, I am a former correction officer with the Washington, D.C. Department of Corrections. I am also a former United States Army veteran, served during the years of 1979 under a artillery um, occupational skills. So basically, coming out of the military, going into corrections, and I'm also a graduate from John Jay College of Criminal Justice, and my major was corrections administration. And so I've had an opportunity to understand in depth what the prison system is all about based on my own college credits, and then based on me working in the Department of Corrections in the North. And so when you see me and you look at me, the picture that I tend to portray is that a person that knows exactly what's really going on based on what I would call my academics and my levels of experience. So I came to Cobb County in '06, and I actually opened up the program, and the programs were flourishing. I was able to get in and out of the courtrooms of Cobb County and do whatever I needed to do to help individuals get alternative sentencing programs.
And that's Cobb
Goal was to
County
get
here in
the
Georgia.
individuals out of prison or get them before they go to prison. The program that I was the CEO over, it flourished for about 5 years with no problem at all. Remind you, when I came to Georgia, I didn't have a criminal record. I was more about law enforcement. I grew up like that. Nobody in my family has a law enforcement background. I became a law enforcement based on some of the things I saw in my neighborhood of Brooklyn, and I wanted to change that narrative. So I decided to step into law enforcement. And I was actually very successful. I thank God for that. But when I came to Georgia and opened up the programs in Georgia, and I put 3 Karens out of my program, the 3 Karens that I put out of my program, they went back to prison because they violated the order concerning alternative programs, and they were using drugs within the program. I put them out of the program, and the next thing you know, I was being charged with sexual assault. Are you hearing me?
Yes, sir. And that's one of the things that, as we go forward in the conversation, because one, I know you're big on one thing that I usually remember that you always talk about is is how you overcame with education and transparency. And from being accused of something you did not do, this is what led you down that on that other side of the game as it relates to law enforcement, right?
Right, because once they incarcerate or once they put the handcuffs on, I realized that I was not innocent based on Georgia's laws, which was Cobb County. I was guilty. because the way I was treated was I'm guilty. I'm guilty. And I had to prove my innocence because the Constitution says that you are you have that right for due process. But what I'm seeing in Georgia, that once the newspaper start publicizing you on social media, then the world will already take its perception of you and make you guilty before you even go to trial. And I see that. I'm trying to figure out how am I going to resolve this issue, or how am I going to get victory on this issue when it looks like it is a system that really is not geared to protecting us. This was never intended to protect us. It was never intended to make sure we have due. And I saw on many occasions, but the system was not fair at all. I saw when the system was very prejudiced. Now, me being a former correction officer and an educated person, and I wasn't your typical criminal, I saw it and it wowed me because in my mind I kept saying, can they do this? Because when I went to court, everybody in the doggone court was white. I'm like, well, hold on, bro. Prosecutor white, the service processor, I mean the bailiff white, I mean the judge, everything. And so to me, it didn't appear that I was going to get a fair trial. So I had to go through that process. And my bond was $100,000. And when the judge gave me the bond, and the judge says to me, if Mr. Butts cannot make the $100,000 bond in 30 days, bring him back and we'll give him a $50,000 bond. Okay, but my thing was, Judge, well, if you're going to give him a 50 and 30, why you just don't give him a 50 right now? What kind of game y'all playing in Cobb County? Well, I made the bond because I actually had the money. It took a sacrifice, but eventually I had to pay an attorney $40,000. He stole the money and put me in a position of really not saying nothing, but he's doing all the talking. And eventually he forced me to take a plea based on a jury that was all white.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at it like this: here I am, I'm ready to go to trial. And then when I go to trial, I see an all white jury. But then I'm being indicted on 3 parents, and they white.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, hold on, that sounds like a setup. You know what I'm saying? I think that eventually I did what we call risk analysis. I actually told my attorney, you expect me to go in front of this white jury? This is not a jury of my peers. He made the statement. He says, yeah, I know, but this is not. I said, so what do you want me to do? He said, I think the best bet is to take a plea bargain. And so I'm saying, well, you won't give me back that $40,000? He said, I'm like,
okay, let me stop you right there, because one, I know a lot of people are interested, and you lay this out very well. You give people a little insert there on your Facebook page as well. But is it important? Okay, the name of the book is called Ineffective Counsel in America.
Say it again, sir.
Is the you lay this all out very well, and you give people a little snippet of that information. Now, is this in the book Ineffective Counsel in America? Is that your book?
Yeah, that is bent on ineffective counseling, whether you are guilty or not guilty. They have a way of manipulating the system so you can pay thousands and thousands of dollars for a good attorney and still wind up in prison.
Now help some people understand, because you say you noticed something was a little awry with pretrial, right? And
Right?
so what made you say, hey, I don't think these guys is in my best interest?
Well, for me, it was I was married. I had a son that was 2 years old, because you got to remember, I was 60 years old. So when they first hit me, I was 45.
Mm-hmm.
A life sentence is 30 years. They told me that if I lost trial, I would get 30 years. And so I had to do what we call risk analysis. So in other words, I had to eat crow even when I didn't want to eat the crow.
So
Yeah.
how do you feel, because that's a big thing for people who don't understand when they come to you with the deal that may include you pleading guilty to something that you have not done.
A lot of times people will look at that, especially America, because a lot of people don't know the system. Because if you have not been in those courtrooms and you have not sat in those seats, then you would not even understand the playbook.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to see the playbook, and the playbook was not the playbook I wrote, but they wrote the playbook.
Right.
But they wrote it to set up that don't know their place. So it's almost like when you see it coming, it's like a perfect storm. You see it coming, but you got to figure out how do you either get out of the storm or ride the storm in your best interest. If I make any sense.
Yes. So going into this, from what is the first thing, because I know me and you have talked a little bit earlier about the situation and the knowledge of the fact that this is a game, and that one, you got to go in and learn the rules. And even from an
Right.
advocacy position, when someone comes to us with an issue, that's what we check first. Have any rules been broken? Or
Right.
did they violate their own policy by doing something, which is what makes it improper, because here it is written one way and you're doing it another way. How is that? How did you cross that boundary there?
Georgia has a way of interpreting its own statute to mean what Georgia wants it to mean. Okay. So what you got to do whenever you in this courtroom, you got to be able to navigate, and you got to be able to key thing, drop your pride. Because if you don't drop your pride, which is that pride that I had at the beginning, where I said, hey man, I didn't do nothing, bro. I'm not about to take this charge. I'm going to the jury. But the question is, how do you go to a jury if the system does not work in your favor? So look, case in point, how can I convince an all-white jury that I didn't sexually assault 3 white girls,
Mm-hmm.
even with a high-paid lawyer?
Wow.
in Cobb County.
Huh.
Which, when you do the research on Cobb, Cobb used to be the headquarters of the KKK. So I had to immediately drop my pride, stay humble in the game, and use my military skills and my correction officer skills to get out of or navigate where I can still come out alive
Right.
and be with my family and fight later.
And you know, that's an
We're gonna
interesting
do so.
concept that you said about fighting later, because of working with other advocacy groups and things of that nature. When you are actually your first introduction to the system is firstly usually could be a traffic stop or a mere conversation with an officer. And those, a lot of times we see things happening at arrest because something goes wrong. And I've sat in places where I advised people that you're not going to beat the cop on the street. You're not going to beat them on the street. So if you could give some uh, pointers on what is the first thing anyone should acquaint themselves with prior to getting in trouble, prior to this event, what should young people be reading, investigating, or where should they be getting information from about how this system is set out to trap you?
Well, if there was any information I would give out to my brothers and sisters, and me being an OG, the first thing I would tell my new youngins, whenever a police stop you, the first thing you do, stand down. Don't argue with them. Don't get in no beef with them. Let them do what they do. Okay?
Right.
That's number one.
Very understandable.
That's gonna save. And I can say that because when I went to prison, I saw a lot of young boys get raped, robbed, molested, and killed in the chain gang because they didn't know how to stand down. See, when you got your hand in the lion's mouth, you got to learn how to ease it out.
Makes sense.
But for some reason or another, our young people haven't learned how to ease their hand out of the lion's mouth. And it doesn't make a difference whether you do right or wrong. Right now, we're just trying to survive their traps.
Right.
Okay? That's how we save our youngsters. When I was in prison, I was respected very highly in prison because I was an educated black man. And probably one of the 99 people that said they didn't do it. But my action and the way I moved into prison had people to believe that say you're a big uncle railroad, I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Because he don't even move like us.
And I think that's so important, what you just said, because I'm always pointing that out. I tell who you are by the moves you make, not by what you say, but by the moves you make.
And you're right. And I had exemplified fruit that proved that I was solid, baby. Sir, say all the way from Brooklyn, you know? I got caught up in the Georgia mass incarceration, Jim Crow system of systemic racism and systemic violence. But see, what helped me out a lot to help the youngsters is I went in prison educated.
Right.
And I wasn't afraid. And then when I came home,
because you already had a bachelor's degree when you went to prison, correct?
Yeah. Right. I had already had the credentials. I was already criminal justice, just the criminal justice fabric. I already had criminal justice fabric on me. Come on, man. I used to work in those places. So if I was what you would call a good working Negro. How about that?
All right, we'll use that.
How about that? How about I grew up in the neighborhood, but mama kept me from the neighborhood?
That's right. I understand that part.
How about I grew up in the project, but the project wasn't in us?
That's right. That's what we preach every day.
Yeah, how about I knew Pookie, Shaniqua, Bay Ray, even smoked some weed and drank some Oakley 800s and some Valentine beer, but I never allowed it to keep me from a higher education.
Right. And I think that's what's most important, man.
When I came to Georgia, when I went to prison, I realized 80% of Georgia's prisoners are uneducated. And that's why they trapping so many of these youngsters today, because even they are uneducated.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you keep recidivism going, is you keep these brothers uneducated.
And when you speak of recidivism, you talk about constantly coming in and out the system and returning to jail, back and forth. And that's one thing I like about you, is because despite all, man, there's nothing better than a story like yours where, yes, you had issues, but you tried to do the right thing. You were doing the right thing. You got targeted, wound up in the system, was able to use that education that you had to free yourself.
I actually turned the negative into the positives because of my value belief system and my spiritual foundation.
And that's a great moment for me to shout out to your support that I've noticed that has been by your side ever since, Miss Lady Levita Futch.
Right. My wife, Dr. Levita Futch, master's degree, PhD, and associate's degree, Clark Atlanta alumni, University alumni as well. She understands the system. So as soon as I started becoming a victim of the system, she didn't run away from the system, but she had boots on the ground as well. And as a result of the boots on the ground, we was able to navigate while I was in prison, because it's a heavy trauma of going to prison knowing you didn't do nothing, outside of going to prison knowing you've done something, and you still got railroaded for something you didn't do, or you did do, and you got too much time, or you didn't get enough time, or whatever. You still come back with traumas such as either a post-incarceration syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And so today, even though I'm a military veteran and I suffer with post-traumatic syndrome, now on top of my PTSD, I suffer with PIS, which is post-incarceration syndrome. How it affects you when you come home. As you can imagine, when I came home, I was so afraid to even do right or even say anything, because I always felt like if I did right or said anything, they'll come back and hurt me again.
Right. And if anybody wants to call in, I want to open up the phone lines right now. You can give a call 508-924-3521 if you have any questions for Brother Justice. At this time, he's here telling his story about dealing with this wretched system of criminal justice here in Georgia as it relates to his case. And definitely go become a follower of his and a member of his group, Peach Justice. He's on Facebook as Peach Justice. And I know you have a lot of concern these days, brother, for the game that's being played right now as it relates to the RICO Act and the new way that they're going to try to ensnare lot a lot more young people. And we need these young people to be aware of how they incriminating themselves. And are they really prepared to fight what you fight? Are they really prepared to go to jail?
Well, to be quite honest with you, a lot of these youngsters out here, and that's what you're asking me, are they prepared to go to jail?
Yes, because we know they're not. We need to find out if we can prevent this. And I know you have a lot of experience with alternative programs and things like that. Like you say, you were very successful at helping juveniles.
Right. No, they're not prepared to go to jail. And I'm going to tell you why they're not prepared to go to jail. Because they're missing the number one element. RESPECT.
Thank you. That's it.
If you can get these brothers to learn the respect game, we can save Jone.
And when you say the respect game, give me some pointers on that respect game.
Because the penitentiary works on respect. Everything you do in the penitentiary is a respect game. Because it's so close quarter that you got to be careful how you move. You got to say, excuse me. You got to say, I'm sorry. You got to say, pardon me. In other words, you got to be accountable for what, for example, you could be in the mess hall, right? And you be trying to get, something from another guy across another guy. And your hand might cross over that other guy's plate. To that other guy, and that other guy's plate you just passed over. He's like, man, say excuse me, bro. Your hand just reached over my plate. And then if Shorty don't say it, or he might say, well, you ain't gotta say it like that. Bro, I say it like I want to say it. You just reached over my plate, bro. What, you want this smoke or what? Before you know it, the whole mess hall lit up, bro.
And brother, that sound like this respect game that you just told me about and the pointers you just gave me, it sound a whole lot like you can apply that right here on the street to avoid a lot of confrontation.
And that's it. It's out here. It's the same thing, but see, you get killed quicker inside the joint than outside the joint because the quarters are so close.
Right. And I see we may have gotten stuck right there. Go ahead.
Outside and inside the respect game. Now, if you get the youngsters, if you can get them back into the respect game, then the next thing you can do is you can get them to move into that place called spirituality for yourself. Because right now, a lot of our young people are experiencing identity crisis. And they don't know who they are, so they tend to want to just join up with anything and anybody. And then before you know it, they done joined up in the South. And now they're being charged with the RICO.
Right. And I see you promoting things like families fighting against mass incarceration, as well as I always promote people to go and look at Inmate Lives Matter. Because, man, I was really moved by the fact of how you present the work that you're doing to further educate yourself as much as possible so that you can continue to help people in this trouble. And that faith component that you just mentioned, I think has a lot to do that. And why you're able to reach out and touch different people is because not only did you go through what you went through, you've developed this faith that allows you to sincerely show other people that, hey, let me help you because I understand what you've been going through. What is the first thing you do as an advocate, advocating on restorative justice and fighting recidivism?
Well, one of the first things I do when I start advocating or being a good activist is holding these leaders accountable. But these some lying folks. These folks go to church every Sunday and come out on the weekday and lie to the people and get in position and do just the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to figure out where they do that at. So you can't expect the children to get their life together when you got the leaders that are the biggest crooks. So my thing right now is to look at leaders and tell the leaders, get up off the youngsters right now until you get your life together.
Because they need to be leading.
And when you get your... Yeah, because you can't lead, you can't make people obey the law when you are constantly disobeying the law or you are constantly doing something under the table. I mean, I don't know about you, bro, but I've been in the game long enough. I can see a lot of this.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily have to do it right then and there, but I can smell deception. I can smell when you got another agenda. I can smell when it ain't about us. It's about you and another agenda.
Right. And I know you're on a mission right now as well. I've seen you talk about it on Facebook as it relates to this $10,000 10,000 signature petition, demanding some policy changes and things like that in the parole system, prison system.
Right. What we got is that we collected 10,000 signatures because we knew if you want to introduce new policies or if you want to introduce a petition concerning a policy, you have to have a certain amount of signatures to even walk into the state capitol to put on the table.
Right.
So with the 10,000 signatures, that gives us access to say, okay, these are 10,000 signatures, and this is the petition that we are petitioning for. And we need a senator or a representative who is all about parole reform to champion this bill.
And see, man, that is so great because the way you have gone through this in the story, all the way from, like I said before, you've served in the military, you've worked in law enforcement agencies, you've done a great thing by trying to provide alternatives for people who get caught up in the system and providing help. And then you've moved all the way from your incarceration to being released, grabbing onto faith and moving forward. And now where you need to be as it relates to actually getting changes made. What help do you need from the people other than these, for them definitely to, whenever you see a petition going out for something like this is one of the first steps to getting in front of lawmakers as well, to let them know what it is that the people deserve.
Right.
And these 10,000 signatures is the leverage.
Right. So, at the end of the day, all we telling Georgia is you got over 40,000 men and women in Georgia's prisons and jail.
Right.
And I don't know if you know this or not, bro, but it is so hard to get the mothers and the fathers from these prisons and jails to stand up.
Mm-hmm.
You got abortion right parades going left and right. Women standing up. You can't get them folks to stand up for them sons and daughters locked up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to figure out what's going on in Georgia.
What do you think will help more?
They don't want to stand.
What can we do? What else can we do to help folks like yourself and to support those who are incarcerated. Because one thing we do know, even if you're innocent, you got to have some boots out here on the ground sometimes as well to do work to help you with your work or to help you. You may be innocent, but you need somebody on the outside working for you as well, right?
Right. I, I think what we need right now is we just need that everybody continue to just share, stand, and come together as a human being
Mhm.
and stop all this division. And I think we can get something done, bro. I really do, man. The Bible said, brethren, how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity.
Yes, sir.
I think we can do it. I just think we just need the right leader that ain't got a whole lot of game.
Man, I thank you so much for participating and calling in today. Like I say, it was on my heart to reach out to you, definitely because a lot of the things that are going on and a lot of hopelessness as it relates to incarceration. But for those of you brothers who are going to get out, hang in there, try to do what's right and educate. Why you sick? Why you got to sit down? Educate yourself because dealing with the system is always going to be rough. And we need brothers like yourself to reach out to help other brothers on the same the same page. Because even though I'm even talking to you right now, I was praying this morning. My heart goes out to the brother. You know who you are, and we've had the discussion, and we know what you're up against. But don't stop doing right just because things gonna got a little rough. And standing up and speaking truth to power is the best way to beat it. You got to get that education and you got to be transparent. And you got to make sure that once you help yourself, you help somebody else. It's not I, but we here at New Order National Human Rights Organization. We're here for the community. You can give us a call at 1-800-346-5138. We don't just help people with criminal justice issues. We help people with homelessness who may not have food to eat, who maybe need mentors. We speak at transition programs, getting people back out into the workforce or what have you, working with the state of Georgia as well. We have individuals who are willing to partner with you if you need assistance starting organizations in your area. Reach out to us. You can go to our webpage at www.nonhro.org. Once again, shout out to all of those platforms that have allowed New Order to speak out. Power 108.9, thank you so much for allowing us that platform on every second and fourth Saturdays of the month. We do really appreciate that, and we don't take anything for granted. Like I said, shout out to Dwight Futch is his name, who goes by Peace Justice on Facebook. Once again, brother, we need to make sure when that book come out that we bring you back to talk about the book so people can get that book in their hand. And we really want to work with you to arrange a community workshop or seminar to talk about exactly what it needs to be done by people fighting for their justice. Is that cool, brother?
Okay, man. I appreciate everything, man, and y'all stay down, man, and I'll let your boy Peace Justice on the Facebook page, man.
I
Appreciate
appreciate your time, man. And that's what we like to do here at New Order. We like to make sure the whole story is being told. We don't move by emotions at all at New Order. We move against injustice, and we move for people in our community, supporting them, whether it's taking you to fill out complaints, helping you secure legal representation, or whatever it is you may need. We try to use our opportunities and our networks to get you that support. Shout out to all those attorneys that are standing up for innocent people. What happened to the days of the real innocence projects where people in our community, because of the attack on us, simply because of the color of our skin, where are those attorneys and those men who have learned this justice system? that will donate their time and their efforts to helping just the innocent people. If we could get you to just help the innocent people, then most definitely I believe that people will reach out to you even more to help them in their situations. And I know when you talk about, well, what I'm gonna do, how I'm gonna get paid, or what some of these things, brothers, with your intelligence only may take you 15 to 20 minutes to figure out. If you could just speak those words of life into somebody's dying situation, you would be surprised at the reward you will receive for simply being known of a person that fights for justice, that fights for truth. We're not trying to get anybody to do anything controversial or do anything wrong, but what we are trying to do is to motivate and spark initiative. And those of many of us African Americans who have figured the game out, who know how to avoid certain traps. We need you to come back and teach this to those young people who don't have positive role models, who do not have those grandmothers any longer at home that they can count on to lead them in the right way. Our people are perishing because of lack of knowledge. It's lack of knowledge that's causing the problems. If you've been in and out of the system, each time you should get smarter and smarter until where you're able to avoid that trap. But do understand it's not what you say, it's what you do. It's how you behave. If you think negative, negative things will happen. So please try to align yourselves with those things that are positive and good for you and your family and your communities. And let's do whatever we can to right the wrongs and stop the violence that has become the major threat to our lives. It's bad enough we have wicked white racists targeting us simply going to get groceries. We need to change this conversation into one of what is it that we are going to do and what is it going to take to stop all of these injustices that are going on. Once again, I'm going to shout out. I'm your vice president from New Order National Human Rights Organization. Shout out Jared Rose. Thank you for the vision and the plan to address these issues in our communities through this platform we call New Order National Human Rights Organization. Once again, if you want to know more about this organization, you can go to www.nonhro.org or give us a call at 1-800-346-5138. Thank you all always. Peace and blessings.